Okay, so today we're going to talk about Kickstart, and I will actually demo Kickstart for you. So I will configure it on my computer so that you can see all of the steps in as much detail as possible, and then try to have a go at it yourselves. I'm going to start with VMware itself. So one of the things that I want you to keep in mind and I want you to do is I want you to have a backup of a virtual machine that's working correctly. Okay. So what I have done, you see that I have various Prometheus virtual machines. So I have my Prometheus home, which I haven't touched it. This is the original virtual machine as downloaded from Moodle. Okay. I then made a copy of it for each of the units that I teach really. So we are on this one. No, I didn't want to click on it. That's fine. So what I recommend that you do is I recommend that you keep a copy of your Prometheus home VM and make another one as a test mule, essentially, something to try everything on it. Okay. This way, if you break it, then you can just go back to it, or you can take snapshots of the virtual machines as you work on them as well. Okay. So that's that. So what I will do now is I will stop sharing my entire screen and I will go to sharing just my virtual machine and I will work in there. So I'm going to make a switch. Screen should be this one. Okay. So now you're seeing my virtual machine on its own. Okay. So generally when you're working, you should essentially just full screen your virtual machine or just have your Linux setup working on it and nothing else. Okay, so we go on to Moodle, we go on to the unit itself, and we are basically here, 2nd of November to 8th of November. Okay. So everything that you will need is in previous week. We have Kickstart at home, which is the lab sheet, and we have the Kickstart utils, which are the files that you will use, that you will need for this. Okay, so let's go to the lab sheet. Kickstart installation, what it is, blah, blah, blah. The first thing that you need to sort out is the system, what you will be working on. So you need to have a virtual network for your installation, and the easiest way to do this will be VMware. Now, if you've downloaded Prometheus, VMware will already be installed and you don't need to do anything to it. If you are booted your computer, you need to install VMware into it, obviously, as well, so that you have all of your clients working. If you connect it into university to work, then Prometheus there is the same, so VMware is installed as well. Now, once VMware is installed, it creates a certain network infrastructure. So if you type ifconfig, and I'm going to make this a bit bigger, I guess. Okay, you can read this easily, yes? Somebody, please don't fall asleep.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so you should have the first network card. If you're working on Prometheus, it will be called ENS something, or VMware network cards inside the virtual machines start with ENS something. Okay, the first default is ENS33, and it will have an IP address of something that's been given out to the virtual machine by your networking infrastructure as created on the host. So if you're working on Windows, for example, then you will have a VMnet 8 network card in your Windows network connections that will have started up and is communicating with this virtual machine. And there will be a DHCP server on your actual host that will have given this IP address to your virtual machine. Okay, so your virtual machine will have one primary IP address that helps it communicate to the rest of the world. You should be able to ping google.com straight away from this without any problems. Okay. To stop pinging, you need Control-C. I hope you know this already. Okay, so first, primary networker that connects you to the outside world on a native scenario. That's if you're working on a VM. If you're working on an actual host, you'll have an actual IP address if you are booted your computer. Then the installation of this VMware player inside here will have created various other networking components. you will have a VMnet1, which is directed to host-only networking, and a VMnet8, which is for native networking. We will not use VMnet8 at all for this lab set. Okay, we only need VMnet1 and its corresponding IP address here. Now, another thing that VMware has done is it has started a DHCP server, various DHCP servers really. So if we type the command ps-ef pipe grep vmnet, DHCP, we see that there are a few processes running in the system, okay, related to DHCP servers. This means that VMnet1 and VMnet8, as seen here and here, have their own DHCP servers that are running in the system. We don't want the VMnet1 DHCP server to be running because we will build our own DHCP server, okay, and we don't want this to interfere. It doesn't always, but it might. So just to be sure, it's a good idea to actually kill it. So kill -9, and then we need the process ID for this guy, which is 2291. 91. Okay. So after having done this, if I press the up arrow and bring back the commands, you'll see that the DHCP server for VMnet1 is now gone. So the process isn't running. So DHCP is freed up so that I can use it on VMnet1 and start my own DHCP server, which will include the Kickstart configuration file that I wanted to start. Okay, so we're using VMnet1 for our virtual machine that we will create, that will be our client, and we're disabling the DHCP server that's running on VMnet1 because we're going to set up our own. So back to the lab sheet, we need the blank virtual machine. So we'll go into VMware Player. And hoping that it starts eventually. And try it again. Okay. The difference an SSD hard drive makes because I've moved this into my storage. Okay, so we need a new virtual machine that is going to be a blank virtual machine, and it will be used as our client. Yes, too late to the party. Thank you. So we create a new virtual machine. All right. Install operating system from. I will install an operating system later because we're kickstarting this. Click next. It's going to be Linux CentOS 7. That's correct. We leave it as it is. We're going to name it at this point, and it's very important that we name it here. So I'm going to call it virtual Prometheus 0. And we can see the location of the virtual machine where it will be saved. It will be saved in my root VMware vPrometheus 0 folder. Click next. Leave it to 20 gigabytes of space. Click next. We can go to customize hardware, and we should, because we're going to give it 2 gigabytes of RAM. If you're running on at home on a machine that has, let's say, 8 gigabytes of RAM total, leave it to 1. Okay, I just want to give mine some more breathing space, essentially. On processor, leave the DVD, go to networking, and change it to host only. Okay, close this, finish, don't show this page again, and close. Okay, so now my virtual machine is created. It has the characteristics that I wanted to have. Okay, and if I power it on, nothing should happen. It should say could not find an operating system to boot from, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it's doing nothing.
Hello, Fas.
Hello.
Sorry, please, are we importing from the Prost something that we've downloaded?
So have you downloaded the virtual machine?
Yes.
Okay, so you should be working in there, yes.
We will import from there, from that virtual machine.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So what's happening here is this lovely thing. The virtual machine is showing me its MAC address. Okay. So they will all start with 000C29. So mine is C5C327. Okay. I will need this for later on. I will need this when I'm configuring my DHCP server. You don't need to worry about software updates and all that. So for the moment, so let's just leave this here. I am curious to see if it will just stay on the screen displaying the MAC address once it times out. Great. So no operating system was found. No DHCP or proxy DHCPs were found. No PXC found. So nothing. It's just gonna stay there and say operating system not found. Keep it as it is because you will need it for the DHCP configuration later on. So we built our virtual machine and it's ready, our client essentially. So what do we need now? We need to move on to the network. We need to configure the DHCP server and we need to configure the NFS server as well. We go back to Moodle and we go to Kickstart Utils. And we need the first two files, dhcpd.conf and exports. So we're gonna get them. In fact, you could download the entire folder if you like. It's fine. DHCP and exports. They're here. So if I go into my home folder, I've been running it somewhere already. Here it is. Okay, so in my downloads, I will find exports and dhcpd.conf. Keep these here for the moment while you're working on them. And once they're finished, you can put them, you can copy them in the correct location where they should be. All right. So I'm going to start with the dhcpd.conf. So this is the file. It has lots of information in here that needs to be changed. Okay. And what I will need mostly for this is my terminal. I'll take it here. And I'm going to scroll up to where I did ifconfig. So a DHCP server must know all of the networks that are working on my computer. Okay. And it must be able to give out IP addresses to everybody that requests an IP address. So we start with server identifier. My server identifier in this case is my virtual machine, and its IP address is 192.168.40.129. Okay, this is my IP address on my first network card. Blah, blah, blah. Everything that has a hashtag in front of it is a comment. We don't need all that. Domain name servers. It doesn't really matter that much. You can basically set it to your host as well, or you can set it to Google's 8888. I tend to always go for the host itself. So 192.168.40.129. So we then have subnet declarations. Okay, we need to declare all of the networks that exist on the computer that we're working on. In our case, we have 1, 2, 3 networks. Okay, ENS33, VMnet1, VMnet8. So let's start with ENS33. So this is on a 255.25250. So this is telling me that I'm working on an entire class C network. So my network address for this will be 192.168.40.0, the beginning of the class C subnet. So when I go to my subnet declaration here, I'm going to delete this and I'm going to go 192.168.40.0. Subnet mask of 255.250, and I can make the comment look nice. This is subnet declaration for ENS33. All right. We then have VMnet 8 because we'll be working on VMnet 1. This will be the more complicated subnet declaration down here that will include the client as well. So we just need to get ENS33 and VMnet 8 out of the way first. So we're going to have this subnet declaration for VMnet 8. So that is again on a 3255 and a 0, so it is a class C default. And we're working with 172.16.75.0. Remember, we need the network address here, not the IP address of the network card. The subnet mask for this one will be 0 as well. This example file was obviously made for what we're doing in the labs. Okay, so that's it. note, so we can make this look nice and tidy. So this is subnet declaration for VMnet 8. Okay. So now that we've gotten those two out of the way, we can go and deal with the one that's most interesting to us, which is VMnet 1. Okay. So subnet declaration for VMnet 1. Again, we're working on a default class C. So the address is going to be 192.168.137.0. Okay, because that's the network address at the beginning of the network. It's a 0 on the subnet mask. Option routers. Now, option routers means the default gateway for this entire subnet. The default gateway for this entire subnet, so for any virtual machines that connect to this, so our clients essentially, will be the actual IP address of VMnet 1, will be this one. Because this will be the gateway for everybody on the inside of this network. So the gateway for this will be 192.168.137.1. Okay. Once you have that in place, subnet mask for this network is again 0. And then option broadcast address for this network is going to be 192.168.137. Bonus points for whoever can give me the correct answer.
255.
Exactly. Great. Thank you. Okay, 255. It's a default class C network. It's all of it. And actually, it's right here as well. All right. So option log servers, we can again set this to be the same as always. So 192.168.137.1. We don't need to do anything on the rest. There is a next server declaration here. It's telling us to look for a next DHCP server. We only have one that we care about that we're running. So we are going to set it to 192.168.40.129, which is exactly what we have on the server identifier in the beginning of the file. Okay, so these two should be the same. And we then go on to the client declaration. So this is where we're telling the system who to expect to connect to this and what information it will get. So the name of this will be the Prometheus 0. Okay, hardware Ethernet. Who is it? This is how the DHCP server will identify the virtual machine when it connects to it. So if I go back to my virtual machine, it's running here still, and we're talking about C5, C3, 27. So I'll go back to our file. C5, C3, 27. Okay, this is a comment. So this is just there so that we are sure that we have the correct one. And these are the actual ones that we care about. So that's going to be the name, vPrometheus 0, and the hardware Ethernet address will be C5, C3, 27. Okay, so this is our client. This is the address it's given us. So this is the MAC address of its network card. Fixed address. So what IP address will the virtual machine receive from our DHCP server once it connects to it? So it will be 192.168.137.2. Okay. VMnet 1 has an IP address of 137.1. So the next logical IP address to allocate on the same subnet will be .2. All right. So once that's done, then just make sure that this says user kick KSCFG. So this will be the location of the file name. And this is one of the main reasons why we're setting up our own DHCP server. One is because the unit is called Network Servers and Services. And I want you to know what setting up a DHCP server looks like. And the other one is so that we can actually customize this file and give it a file name to look for. So once the client starts up, it will find this DHCP server, it will contact it. the DHCP server will identify it by its MAC address and will say, yes, I'm going to give you this IP address. And by the way, here is a Kickstart file for you to work with. All right, so I'm going to save this and I'm going to close it.
Vas,
Yes.
what's the difference between the server identifier and log server?
So those are the nothing really. Okay, we are
why we give them different IP address?
It doesn't matter. You can give them the same if you like. You can give 4129 to all of them. Okay, I was just working in subnet, so that the nearest IP address that I had in my mind was that one. All three of these IP addresses here, this one up here for ENS33, this one down here for VMnet1, and this one down here for VMnet8, are IP addresses of the same computer. Okay, computers don't have IP addresses, network cards have IP addresses. So since all three of them belong to it, then all three of them are able to be used in the configuration files that we're making. Okay. Yes? No? Makes sense?
Yes, makes sense.
Okay. So now we have our dhcp.conf file that we built and we want to use it. In order to use it, we need to make sure that we have DHCP as a service in our system. So if I do service DHCP status, my computer says nothing. So this means that my DHCP server is not installed. This is happening because when I was building those virtual machines, I tried to make them as light as possible, so I didn't install all of the network services. Okay, but this is very easily fixable with yum install DHCP. Enter that, blah, blah, blah. As long as you have internet connection, it will say, oh, look, I found this, and this will be installed. All the dependencies are in place. Say yes to this, click enter, and it's done. Okay, so service DHCP status now will tell me that it's redirecting, but I can't find it. But now I can start a DHCP service. Now, what do we need to do? We need to put the dhcpd.conf file in the correct place. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go to places. I'm going to go to computer. So this is the top of my directory structure. I'm going to go to etc. because that's where all of the configuration files for all of the services are. And I'm going to find my DHCP server. And there is an example dhcpd.conf file in here already that has nothing in it. So I will simply paste and replace. Okay, open it again just to be on the safe side. And yes, it is the correct one. So I should now be able to service DHCPD start. And it's done. All right. Annoyingly, it's service DHCPD start, not service DHCP start. Okay, because it's the DHCP daemon that works. All right. So now if I do ps-f pipegrep DHCP, okay, I will see that I have this new process here that just started, and this is my DHCP server running. Okay, so configure the file, download the service, make sure it's there, put the file in the correct location, run the service. So that's DHCP done. Then we move on to NFS. We need NFS in order to share the files that will be made available for the installation through the network. So let's test service NFS status. It's loaded, so it's there and it's actually running, but it's inactive. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to configure the exports file. The exports file is very easy to configure. We only need one instance of it because we will only be sharing to one network. All right, and we need two lines, so we'll be sharing mount deploy and user key. We simply need the network address and the subnet mask of the network in which we will be sharing all of this information, all of our files. And this network will be the network of VMnet1. So 192.168.137.0. So go back to the file, 192.168.137.0. What? Okay, with a subnet mask of 0. We'll do the same for the other line as well, because we are sharing them in the same place. 192.168.137.0 and 0 here again. Ah, come on. Okay, so now we're creating two folders, mount deploy and user kick, and we're sharing them to the network of VMnet1. We actually need to create those folders as well. Okay, so I'm going to do this the GUI friendly way. I'm going to go back to, fine, okay, back to computer. Okay, we need mount, deploy, and user kick. So let's find mount, MNT, and we go in here, we'll make a new folder, call it deploy. And then we'll go back, and we'll go to user, and in here we'll make a new folder, call it kick. Okay, so now these folders exist in the system. So now this file is correct. We save it and close it, and we take it and we copy it to where it should be, and it should be in okay. So again, computer, too many windows open. I don't like this. It should be in etc. etc. Okay, so if I just paste it in here, there is no etc. NFS folder. Okay, it just goes into etc. And you'll see that there is a file here already with a size of 0 bytes, so it is empty. All right, so we'll just replace it. Once we put the file into place, we can then go into the terminal and start the service. Service NFS restart, just to be on the safe side. Thinking about it a little bit. Ah, come on. And it's done. Okay, so now if I type export FS, it will show me that the exported file systems that are out there in my network are mount deploy and user key. So this means that I have successfully shared the mount deploy and user key directories. All right, so with that in place, let's go back into the lab sheet. So we don't need these anymore. We'll just keep them here for reference. So we have configured DHCP and NFS. We've done this, we've done all this. We move on to the next step. We need a Kickstart configuration file. The way to configure the Kickstart configuration file, yes, there is an example of it in Moodle, but I would only want you to use it as a reference. I don't want you to actually go and use it in the lab, because the first thing, for example, nobody remembers what the password is in the file. So you won't be able to log into your virtual machine once you build it. Okay. And there are version differences in there as well that we don't want to, we don't want you to have to deal with. So easiest thing to do, type system config kickstart. Go back to our terminal, system config kickstart. Command not found. This means that this utility is not installed. What do? Same as DHCP, yum install system config kickstart. Hopefully without typos. Press enter, lot of dependencies, say yes. And it's done. So if I do system config kickstart now, it starts this GUI utility called Kickstart configurator. There is a problem with this, however. When you go to package selection, there is nothing there. So this is a bug in CentOS that hasn't been fixed. However, there is a way around this. There is a way that we can fix this. So I'm going to close this. And this will show you an example of how do we actually deal with problems in Linux if something comes up. In here, you'll find KS packages, fix, text file. Okay, so we download this, open it, and what does it say? In order to fix the packages in Kickstart configurator, you need to add base to line 164 of the following Python file: user share system.config kickstart packages py. So I'm going to find that file and open it. So I'm going to use gedit for this. So gedit, and I need user share system config kickstart / packages.py. Okay. While you're typing commands in a terminal, if you press the tab button, it will autocomplete unique entries. Okay, and that's how you can skip and you don't actually have to type everything. Open this up, and with gedit on the bottom, it tells you which line you're on. So now my cursor is on line 44. So if I scroll down, I'm on line 134, now I'm on 156, and 164 is here. So I'm on this one. So I need to add base to this. Okay, so it should look like this: reorder, rawhide development, Fedora base. So go here, comma, space, quotation marks, and base inside them. Once that's done, I save the file, close it. I can close this as well. And now if I start system config kickstart, go to package selection, hooray, it works. Okay, so this is how you actually fix something that's broken. So essentially it was missing the base repository from the system. So what do we do with this file? Basic configuration. Default language is going to be, of course, English UK, because we're not Americans. So we're looking for Great Britain, maybe. Thank you. All right. Keyboard is a UK keyboard, usually. Okay, so this depends on what your computers are. If you have a computer or laptop with American keyboard, just keep it as it is. Time zone, Africa, I would say no. Let's go to Europe. And let's find, oh, really? Of course, alphabetically, so let's find London. All right, root password, local host 1, our favorite, local host 1. I click through password, architecture, reboot system after installation, and that's it. Don't tick this. Don't perform installation in text mode. Let's do graphical so that it looks pretty. Installation method is going to be a new installation method. Okay, and the server is going to be NFS. So because we're using NFS through our exports file in order to share our files everywhere, and the IP address of our Kickstart server is going to be 192.168.137.1. All right, so that is the IP address for VMnet1. Now, NFS directory that everything will be in will be /mount deploy /. So once we have that configured, we can go to bootloader options. Okay, you can tell it to install a new bootloader. It's fine. And install it on the master boot record. So all this is happening in the new virtual machine that we're building. If you don't have this, it will not know how to boot the operating system inside. Okay, so this is very important as well. You're not doing any physical changes to the hard drive of your computer because you are working. Everything in here pertains to the virtual machine that you're building. Partition information. You need to clear the master boot record because as far as this brand new virtual machine that you built, Prometheus 0, okay, it has a hard drive, but it hasn't been initialized yet. All right, so you need to clear master boot record and you need to remove all existing and you need to initialize the disk label. So this is a brand new hard drive. We then need some partitions in this. Partitions that we need in Linux. First of all, we need a /boot partition. Okay, we can give it a size of, let's say, 200 megabytes. This is a good size for CentOS 7. Okay, format, and I always like to choose force to be a primary partition. Click OK. Add another one. We need the swap partition as well. So that swap partition should have twice the amount of the RAM that you have in the system. However, because we are a bit tight with the space that we're using, I'm going to set it to exactly the size of the RAM that I have on my system. That's 2 gigabytes, forced to be primary again. And finally, we need the last and most important partition, our slash directory, which will need to be fill all unused space on the disk. So you've set the partition size for slash boot, you've set the partition size for the swap partition, but you set this to be the rest of the available hard drive space, the rest of the 20 gigabytes that are left. Format partition and force to be primary again. So click OK on that, and that gives us the partition layout that we'll have in our virtual machine. So this is what it should look like in the end. Network configuration, we're going to have one network card, and we can set it through DHCP. I prefer to do it static. The network device is going to be called ENS33, again, because we will be in there, we'll be inside the virtual machine. And the IP address will be 192.168.137.2 with a subnet mask of 255.0. Gateway is going to be 192.168.137.1. Remember our option routers. Okay. And the DNS server will be the same again, 192.168.137.1. Click OK, save that. We have our network information. Authentication, we don't need to do anything here, so just leave it as it is. Firewall configuration, let's just disable SE Linux as well, because I don't generally like it. And just leave the firewall off so that we don't complicate our lives even further. Display configuration, install a graphical environment. We don't need to do anything here. We'll just leave everything to auto. And then we'll go to package selection. We have the packages that we want to use here. I would say in applications, go for, so we need to make this as light as possible. So just install a browser. Don't do any databases. Install a known desktop. Okay. And make sure that you install the X Windows system as well, because without that, you will not have a graphical environment to work in. It will just start in a terminal. Development, we don't need anything. Availability, servers, we don't really need any of that. We can go to system. We need to install the base. Okay, it's a good idea to have the compatibility libraries as well. Nothing else really. System management, no. Not really, no, and nothing else. Okay, remember this is just a simple client that we're using, that we're building, and we just want it to be as light as possible so that the installation will not last for too long as well. Finally, we have pre and post installation scripts. You don't need to use this. You would use this if you were creating a version of Kickstart that creates an operating system that has custom files inside it. For example, I'll give an example. In the university, we're using OpenNet Modeler and a variety of other programs. They get installed in these two sections here, pre-installation, mostly post-installation scripts. All right, so now we have all of the answers done in here. So we can go to File, and we can save it, and we can go to User Kick. So go to File, System, User, Kick, and the file is called ks.cfg, and we save it. We close it, and we can actually double check this if we like as well. So we can go to Places, Computer, User, Kick, and this is what the file that we created looks like according to all our options. Okay. So everything is here, mount deploy, the directory that we said, the network that we chose, the packages that we chose to install, and so on. So now our Kickstart configuration file is completed. Okay, and we can go on and we can try to start the installation. Before we do this, of course, I almost forgot, we need to populate the mount deploy directory. So when we go to places, so let's see, so I have downloaded the ISO file here. Okay, I need to extract it. So we can mount it with the image mounter. So what we need to do now is we need to take all of these files, copy them into mount deploy. So go to computer, go to mount and deploy. Okay, it should be pretty quick because it is the same file system. But it might as well take some time also. So while it's doing this, and I see it's not giving us a progress bar either, that's lovely. While it's doing this, we can start dealing with our client virtual machine. So what we also need to have here, we need to have the ISO of the D image mounted into the virtual machine. So virtual machine, removable devices, I'm going to go to CD, DVD, and I'm going to settings. And where it says DVD, I'm going to use an ISO image, and I'm going to browse to the ISO image that I downloaded onto my system. So it's in downloads, and I open it here. So what I've done now essentially is as if I'm opening the DVD tray of my computer, and I'm inserting the CentOS DVD inside it. So if I save this and restart the computer, the virtual machine that I'm building, the client, it will find the DVD and it should start the installation. So let's go to send control and delete. I think it will start it. And it is. So press enter key to begin the installation process. Press enter. And come on. Okay, let's hope it's just taking its time because I am copying the file as well at the same time. Okay. Of course, I went through all of the lab sheet and I'm getting stuck on the very last step. Oh, let's try this again. Oh, enough with the warning messages. Yes, I know what I'm doing. So restart, click inside. Okay, so it's finished copying the files. Great, so this is what I want. Okay, so press tab for full configuration options on menu lines. So if I press tab, it's giving me this. So after quiet, I can press space and I can go back to my lab sheet. And what I need to type in here is this command here. So we go here and we say inst.ks equals NFS. And that's at 192.168.137.1. So this is numlock 192.168.137.1. So this is the IP address of my Kickstart server. Okay. So obviously in the lab sheet it says XX. It will be whatever you have on your own computer. Okay. And then the location of this is user kick ks.cfg. Right. So if I have this line, inst ks equals NFS, the IP address of the NFS of the server and the location of the file, and press enter. It will do nothing. Has it kept it? Okay, it hasn't kept it. Those little changes that they make every time in the operating system. Okay, so this is the idea generally. All right, I will figure out exactly where I need to go and type the command, and I will let you know later on today. Okay, I don't think it's in troubleshooting. No, no. Okay. So why wouldn't it do it? Oh, unless, okay, equals this. 2.168.171 user kick. Okay, yes, see. Okay. And then I need to press E for this.
Vas, someone mentioned that you might have had a instead of 192.168, you might have put 192.167 apparently in one of the thingies. But
I think it's the command itself here as it's happening. Okay, so let's see if this will do it. The problem is that I guess I'm forgetting. I haven't done this since last year. So you need to remove the option that says start the installation from there and just force it to start with the Kickstart in there. So if it tries to go through all of the steps automatically on its own, it means that, you know, our Kickstart works. So the command is correct there. If it tries to give us the options again to do the installation like languages and everything else, it means that it hasn't worked and I need to look it up at a later time. And sort it out. But theoretically, if everything was correct, then this should now just start copying files and installing once it gets into the graphical user interface. Let's see. It is quite a convoluted process in the fact that there are quite a few services and quite a few things that actually need to be in place for it to work. Okay. But if you just break it down into sections like services that need to be installed on a Kickstart file, then making sure that everything is correct on the client on the virtual machine, and making sure that all of the files are in the correct place and everything, then that's it. And once you make it once, then you know it's very easy to even add additional virtual machines later on. Okay, while I'm waiting for this, I will look at the chat. See if there's anything there to answer. When writing this up, should I write up as what we did in week 3 or 4? When you write this up, you should write all the steps that you did and just make sure that you get screenshots and you explain everything that you've done. Type boot afterwards. No, I don't think that's it. Yes, the ISO, the link for the CentOS is actually in Moodle as well. Yes. Okay. You can send me an email if you need help, and I can help you out online if you like. Okay, I don't want you to come into the lab for this. Okay. Cloud servers. No, Marcus, I would like you to be working on the VMware that we're using, the VMware player. Really? In the Kickstart config? Okay. So what we're getting now, so this is a typical example of the fault that you have. So the command that I typed was correct. So you need to replace, or you need to remove the line when it's booting all the way back to inst and change that inst to installation of Kickstart. So this one says what? CP cannot start KSCFG. So it cannot find the file. Okay. So it cannot find the Kickstart configuration file. And it's looking for 192.168.137.1 user kick KSCFG. I don't have enough time to troubleshoot this now because it is 5 minutes 10. This is most probably because I copied the new file into the user kick. I copied it into the user kick directory, and I did not restart the NFS service so that it updates everything that it's sharing on the network. All right. So you will get to points like this. Because I have demonstrated all of it to you, I would like you to try and troubleshoot it yourselves. Okay. When it gets stuck on something, I want you to read the error message that you're getting in the virtual machine, and I want to try and figure out what the problem is with it. And of course, it goes without saying, you can send me an email, and I can, give you some ideas about it. Now, because somebody asked us for coming into the lab, I don't really want you to come into the lab if it's something that I can fix remotely. So I only want to be running the lab sessions, the practicals, if you have a problem setting up your computer so that you work. All right. I don't want you to come in for for things that I can remote into and look at your own computers. All right. We need to minimize contact as much as possible. Right, okay, so falling behind, yes, all of this will be uploaded on Moodle. For the function missing, the short progress, yes, okay, it's fine. Host only inside the VMs, yes. So from Prometheus to the VM that you're building, okay, so this is now dead. You should be using host only. Okay, away. Yes, that's pretty much it then. Anything else that you might have about this? Any questions about this process? I would say watch the video back, so I will render it and I will upload it either on Moodle or YouTube, because I figured out that once they're hour-long video recordings and they're more than 200 gigabytes, 200 megabytes, then Moodle doesn't like it to be uploaded straight away, but it will be a link to my YouTube channel anyway. And this will be up shortly. So have a look at it again, have a go at the process. You do have this week, and next week is a study week, essentially consolidation week. So you can use that to catch up as well. And I don't think I will give out a new lab sheet the week after that as well. I just want to make sure that you're all finished with this, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, so you have plenty of time for this. You have essentially 2.5, 3 weeks to do it. Okay, give it a go. Try to troubleshoot it. Try to do your research if you get stuck somewhere, and of course, ask me or ask your fellow students if you have any questions about it. It's a good point for me to remind you as well that I would like to use the forum as well on Moodle. I will start a thread in there so that if we have any problems, you can ask them there and everybody can see them. Somebody else might be able to help you with it. And of course, if you have, lots of you will have the same questions as everybody else. So it's better for them to be somewhere publicly with the solution available as well. Okay, I'll stop recording this.